Is it finally time for the Blue Jackets to get back-to-back wins for the first time since Black Friday? We talk about that on today's Locked on Blue Jackets.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also want to let you know this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Talking about the Rangers again, thankfully for the last time this season, but the Blue Jackets are playing them tonight. I feel like the Blue Jackets have had a ton of games this season where they have played the same team twice in the space of 3 or 4 days. Maybe that's recency bias. I don't know, but that's how it is. Sometimes the schedule is weird and you are done with a season series by November, or you don't play a team until March. Sometimes it's like that. And I also want to touch on a couple of the trade deadline rumors, including an interesting one that I heard early yesterday about Ivan Provorov, who could be on the move. Let's start off with how the Blue Jackets could fare tonight against the Rangers, and then we'll move on to the trade stuff. But it feels like it's kind of cheating, but the Blue Jackets can beat the Rangers by just doing exactly what they did on what was it, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. That's just kind of the way that it is. I thought the Blue Jackets were great on Sunday. Allowed a few too many shots. I thought there was some questionable lineup choices in terms of time on ice, but hey, if it works, it works. And so, you've got to just keep rolling the lines that work. So I think a big part of this is going to be that Russian line. We talked a lot on Monday about how Dmitry Voronkov should be getting Calder consideration. Currently, again, 30th on the team in points. 30th, that's incorrect. Third on the team in points, I believe, or fourth after... fourth on the team in points after Gaudreau and Marchenko on forward, and then Werenski on defense. Gaudreau has 42 points, Marchenko 31, Werenski 33, and then Voronkov with 30. And again, he's doing all of this on average with 13 and a half minutes of ice time. So, if I'm Pascal Vincent, I'm riding the Russian line, and I know that they had a good night, the Gaudreau, Roslovic, Jenna line. But I think they play too much, and I'm kind of that mind of, I've talked about this a lot about how load management of your defense is something that I think more teams could stand to get involved in, because I don't think you should have to rely on your number one defenseman to play. Zach Werenski averages 25 minutes a game, or just under 25 minutes a game. Imagine how effective he would be if he was only playing 21 minutes or 22 minutes. How effective would Boone Jenner be if he wasn't playing, 25 minutes a night? He's averaging 19.44 on the season. Which seems low, honestly. But think about how effective he would be if he was only playing 20 minutes a night. You can give that ice time to, for example, a Dmitry Voronkov, who only plays 13 and a half minutes, or the Johnson, Nylander, Sillinger line that I thought was really quite good for the Blue Jackets against the Rangers. I would give them a little bit more ice time. Maybe not all of the spare ice time, but I would definitely give them more ice time than they got, quite frankly. But it's all just little tweaks. There's nothing about this lineup that I look at it and I'm like, wow, you really need to fix that. I think what'll be interesting is seeing what happens with the defense, or with the goaltending, excuse me, for New York. They saw Jonathan Quick, who allowed, I believe it was 4 goals on 41 shots, which is respectable, quite frankly. But I think the Blue Jackets will see Igor Shesterkin. He's 25, 12, and 1 on the season. Missed a little bit of time with injury, I believe. Played... Oh, maybe I'm lying. But he's had an above 975 save percentage in his past 3 games. So on February 20th, he allowed 1 goal on 42 shots. On February 22nd, he allowed 1 goal on 40 shots. On February 24th, 1 goal on 40 shots. Like, he's on a bit of a hot streak at the minute. I would expect the Blue Jackets will see Shesterkin, which makes this a different game. I don't think it necessarily makes it an automatic loss, because I feel like the Blue Jackets have faced him already this season. I'm just pulling up the box scores for the last games that that these two teams faced off against each other. They faced Shesterkin in the first game of the season, and they scored 5 goals on 21 shots on him. So he's mortal. He's beatable. They scored 3 goals on 28 shots against him in the second meeting, where the Rangers won in a shootout, but the Blue Jackets scored 3 goals on 28 shots. Oh, excuse me, that was on Jonathan Quick. I stand corrected. But my point is, Shesterkin is beatable. He's mortal. And I think you look at how well Jonathan Quick played, and frankly, I don't know that if Shesterkin is in net, I don't know that the Blue Jackets lose that game, quite frankly. I think Elvis was excellent. I think we'll probably see Tarasov tonight, and then Elvis tomorrow night against the Hurricanes, but I'm not, don't quote me on that. But honestly, if that's the only change up, is that they swap their goalies out and it's Tarasov versus Shesterkin instead of Merzlikins versus Quick, like, Tarasov's been very good the last couple of games. He's had some bumps, he's had some rough games, but he's also had some excellent games. He was great against the Sabres. I think allowed 2 goals again on 40 shots. Was very good against the Ducks. Only allowed 2 goals on, again, I think 31 or 32 shots, and one of those he was lying face down, injured from friendly fire. So 2 very strong games from Tarasov. Elvis was great against the Rangers on Sunday night. Like, the Blue Jackets haven't won back-to-back games in literally over 3 months at this point. So, like, it feels like it's a scheduled loss. They can't seem to win more than 1 game in a row. I wouldn't be surprised. But this is an extremely, extremely winnable game for this team. And I hope that they can do it, because I think that would be a big boost to the Blue Jackets. It's a tough time in the schedule for them. They're finishing the month with not a great schedule. Obviously playing New York twice, and then Carolina, and then they go into March, and then they've got a game against the Blackhawks, which, okay, and then Vegas, Penguins in Pittsburgh, which they haven't won there in like 6 years, Oilers, Predators, and that's the first 5 games. And then, they've got kind of an easy-ish week with the Canadians, the Senators, and the Sharks, and then they get right back to it. Jets, Red Wings, Avalanche, Vegas again, because again, sometimes you just don't play a team until March 4th, and then you play both games in the same month. Weird. Finish off the month with Arizona, and then 2 more games against Pittsburgh, because again, sometimes you play 3 of the 4 games in a month. Weird. Wild. So we'll talk a little bit more about this game, about what I expect to see from the Blue Jackets, coming up in just a second. Before we do that, though, I've got to talk to you about game time, because I hate to plan ahead, but I also hate to do things last minute, which is that's a tough set of things to kind of clash against each other. But if I want to go to, say, I'm in San Jose right now, if I want to go to a Sharks game, I use Game Time. It is fast, it is easy. They've got tickets for all of the sports, music, comedy, and theater events that I could name. They've got last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat. They've got a best price guarantee, which means that they take the guesswork out of buying tickets, and if you find the same row and section for less, you will get 110% of the difference credited back to you from Game Time. They're the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. All of the prices show your total up front, so you don't get stuck with surprise fees like some other ticketing apps that I could name and won't. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I'm also going to tell you about FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers are going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. And you can bet on whatever you want. All you have to do, literally open the app, find any heavy favorite. Like, we're talking bet on the Harlem Globetrotters to win the game, heavy. Put $5 on it, and if you win, you get $150 to do whatever you want with on FanDuel. They've got quick bets, they've got live same-game parlays, they've got exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and also us, the Locked On Podcast Network. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking about the Blue Jackets and the Rangers. We're done with the Rangers after this game, which is great because they are always such a pain in the butt to play. And we talked a lot about how winnable this game is, as long as the Blue Jackets stay out of their way. On paper, it should be way more matched than it actually is, quite frankly, or way more mismatched, I should say, excuse me. Because the Rangers are better than the Blue Jackets in basically every single metric. Their power play is 6th in the league. Their penalty kill is 5th in the league. Versus the Blue Jackets, who are 29th and 25th. The Blue Jackets won the special teams matchup. They scored a power play goal, didn't allow a single penalty kill goal. They won the special teams matchup. The Rangers are 5th in faceoffs. The Blue Jackets are 26th. I don't think that faceoffs are super important, but winning them definitely helps. I just don't think it's as important as a lot of people say. The Rangers are 8th in the league in goals for per game and 6th in goals against. So they are scoring on average 3.32 goals per game and only allowing 2.73. Meanwhile, the Blue Jackets are scoring only 2.95 goals per game and allowing 3.67 goals per game, good for 22nd and 31st in the league. Now, that goals for per game has crept up a little bit in recent games. The goals against has sunk a little bit. There was a minute there where they were not almost dead last. And of course, when you look at the last 10 games, the Rangers are 9-1-0, with that one loss, however, coming to the Blue Jackets in the most recent game. On the flip side, the Blue Jackets have 4 wins in their last 10 games, plus an overtime loss to Vancouver, and another 5 losses in regulation. So you look at any of this on paper and you're like, okay, they've got better goaltending, they've got better scoring, they've got better defense, they score more, they allow fewer goals, their special teams are better, they've won more games. Like, before the last game, the game on Sunday, the Rangers were the best team in the league in terms of points percentage. Now I believe they're 2nd in the league in points percentage. Meanwhile, the Blue Jackets, again, continue to languish at the bottom of the standings. So all of this means that, honestly, maybe we should expect a Rangers loss, because everything is telling me that the Rangers are going to come into town, or I believe they're in New York, actually. This game is at Madison Square Garden. The Blue Jackets are going to come into town and just get absolutely steamrolled. Like that, everything in my gut, like everything in my head is telling me this. In my heart, I wonder if the Blue Jackets can win this game. It feels almost like a trap for the Rangers. I think they thought that they got caught off guard by the Blue Jackets on Sunday. I think, thought that it might be a little bit of a pushover. At least that's what I've kind of seen from their fans on Twitter, is everyone is shocked and appalled and horrified that the Rangers lost to the lowly Blue Jackets, and they're making it the Blue Jackets fans' problem, which, fine. I can't say that I wouldn't do the same thing in their shoes. You know, I can't. I'm not gonna stand here in my glass house of being a sports fan and throw rocks. I'm just not going to. That being said, I think it would be very funny if the Rangers went a perfect. What was it? They went 10-0 to start February, and they finished February with only 2 losses, and both of them to the Blue Jackets. I do think it would be very funny. And in terms of predictions, what do I think is going to happen in this game? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say the Blue Jackets are going to win this game. I think it's going to be 3-2 in overtime, because why not? The Blue Jackets haven't won in overtime in a minute, and again, I think that'll be fun. Because I hate my blood pressure apparently. And I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with the big man. I'm going to go with Dmitry Voronkov to score the first goal. He scored in back-to-back games. He scored the only goal against the Sabres, I believe, and then he scored in Sunday night's game. My days are all mixed up because I'm traveling right now. Against the Rangers. So he already has a goal against the Rangers on the season. He is red hot right now. He is one goal behind Connor Bedard for the rookie goal scoring lead, which is hilarious. Once again, he's doing it in approximately 5 minutes of ice time a game less than Bedard, but hey, it is what it is. We're not gonna talk about Voronkov versus Bedard for the Calder. We'll save that for tomorrow's episode when he has scored a hat trick and reached his first 20-goal season. That's not quite how the math works, but it's fine. Just roll with me on this. But I do think the Blue Jackets win, and I think Dmitry Voronkov has a goal. Maybe he opens the scoring with it. Obviously, now that I don't have Hayden as co-host, it's kind of taken the gamifying factor out of these predictions. But maybe at the end of the season, I'll go through and I'll tally up how many I got right. Just for me, but I have a good feeling about this game. Is that feeling right? Who can say? But that's how I feel about it. Take another quick break. When we get back, there's a couple of trade rumors swirling around about some players on the Blue Jackets, and I want to point specifically to a big one, and that is, could Ivan Provorov be on the move this deadline? We'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you're going to get your money back. With eBay Motors, you're going to burn rubber, not cash. The parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to US customers. All right, welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We've got some trade rumors to discuss. Obviously, the Blue Jackets kind of kicked off the trade deadline a little bit by moving Emil Bemstrom out, and now they're suggesting that Ivan Provorov could be on the move as well. And now I've heard rumblings that Provorov was a player that Jarmo Kekalainen specifically wanted to go out and get. And I'm curious to see if he kind of goes the way of Emil Bemstrom, who, again, was one of Jarmo Kekalainen's guys. And I'm wondering if the rest of the organization was less thrilled with this acquisition for a wide variety of reasons that, maybe we'll never know. But I do wonder, looking at who's kind of named in these trade rumors, I do wonder how much of the moves have been Jarmo Kekalainen doing something and everyone else just kind of being like, well, I wouldn't have done that. I saw Sean Corrali named in trade rumors as well, and like that's way less substantive at the minute, but I do wonder how many of these moves are going to be, let's try and clear out some of the moves that Kekalainen made when he maybe shouldn't have. That being said, Ivan Provorov is a guy that I kind of tossed around the idea of, could he be on the move? If the Blue Jackets retain salary and they, someone else gets Ivan Provorov for $2.5 million for the rest of this season and next season, like that feels like a really attractive contract. If you don't expect him to defend, you just want him for offense. Maybe you have him on that second power play unit. I feel like teams would be into that. There are a couple of teams that this has come up with. One of them is the Edmonton Oilers, and I feel like the Edmonton Oilers consistently need defense, just all of the time. Doesn't matter how many defensemen they acquire, they still need defensemen. I don't get it. The other is Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has just lost Mikhail Sergachev, I believe, basically for the rest of the season. He broke 2 bones in his leg, which horrifying, horrific. But he's out long term. And so there is a defensive hole in Tampa Bay. The question becomes, what do the Blue Jackets want to get back? And, they're talking about how there's a willingness for the Blue Jackets to retain salary on Provorov, and they think that will get them a better return, and they're probably right. Ivan Provorov is currently making $4.75 million this year and next year. If the Blue Jackets retain 50% of that, we're just going to go ahead and call this $5 million because I don't want to do math. So they could retain for $2.5 million for Ivan Provorov is retained. Then the Blue Jackets will be able to send him out, and it'll be what, 2.225 million. Someone else will pay for him, and that is probably going to bump the return up. And I think that's kind of what you want. The Blue Jackets are not going to be contending next year. They don't have a ton of dead cap. They're paying Alex Wennberg under $1 million for the next 3 seasons. They have, obviously they've got some contract to play with, but it's not like they have a bunch of like extraneous contracts. Like, for my money, the only really extraneous contract right now, Andrew Peak, who could also be on the move. I don't think that's a deadline deal. I think that's probably a summertime move. And Jack Roslovic, who is off the books at the end of this season anyway. So like, the Blue Jackets can afford to carry around $2.5 million of dead cap for a season and a little bit. They've got some contracts that they need to figure out. Johnson, Marchenko, Sillinger, Chinikov, like the Texier. They'll figure it out. It'll be fine. But they have the money to make this kind of move, to retain salary. So what did the Blue Jackets get back? Tampa Bay doesn't have any first-round picks for the rest of time, I don't believe. They both, I believe, this year's first-round pick. Yeah, they don't have this year's first or second. They don't have next year's first. Their next available first-round pick is 2026. So that feels like maybe the Blue Jackets do that. I don't know that I can see that. And then you look at kind of who's available in terms of maybe a prospect. And they really only have a couple of guys that are like what I would consider attractive prospects. And that's Isaac Howard, who was just drafted this most recent draft, I believe, and Ethan Gauthier, who I like Ethan Gauthier a lot. And I think I would retain 50% of what Provorov is making right now in return for Ethan Gauthier. Like that feels fine to me. I like that. I like Gauthier as a prospect a lot, and it's really the best thing that you could get from the Lightning, because they don't have picks, they don't have prospects, because they're a team that's always contending year in, year out. In terms of Edmonton does have their first round pick this year and next year. They've also got this year's second. They have fewer prospects that I am like excited about. I took a quick look at their cap friendly page and didn't see anyone that kind of jumped out as like, oh wow, I would love them to go and get this guy. But let's see if I can find out who their best prospects are right now. They're 25th in the Athletics prospect rankings right now. The Lightning, I believe, are 29th. So like these are two teams with not great prospect awareness, not great prospect pools. But looking it up, Brady Stonehouse for the Ottawa 67s, actually. He's got 35 points in 52 games, plays with Luca Pinelli, one of the Blue Jackets draft picks. I think he might be an intriguing guy. And again, I wonder if you do Brady Stonehouse and like a third or a fourth for 50% of Ivan Provorov's contract. Like, I wonder if that's the move here. But again, I'm looking at their prospects, and I'm like, yeah, there's no one here that really excites me except maybe Brady Stonehouse. The Blue Jackets have proven that they love the buddy system. Getting Luca Pinelli's buddy, I think, would be fun. But I'm not expecting this trade deadline to be like the one where the 2020 or the 2021 trade deadline, where they managed to get a first-round pick back for Nick Foligno and another one back for David Savard. I think if the Blue Jackets get a second first-round pick this draft, then they take that and they run with it. But if people don't want to give it first, and that's kind of increasingly becoming a thing, I think Gauthier would be a good pickup. And frankly, I think Brady Stonehouse would be. I was going to call him Brady Stonekeeper. That's me mushing all of my different guys up. But yeah, so that's kind of a couple of guys there that I've looked at, and I'm sure as these rumors keep going and going, we'll get more. But those are the teams that have been connected to desiring Provorov as a player. I'm sure there are probably more out there who want an offensive defenseman who is fairly healthy and can play a bunch of minutes, but probably shouldn't. He's kind of like the reverse David Savard in that if David Savard was an offensive defenseman, it would be Ivan Provorov, So, which is maybe not a comparison that makes a lot of sense, but makes sense to me. It's quite late here. I'm very tired. I'm very sorry. That's kind of all I've got for today. Tomorrow, the episode will probably be out a little bit later because, again, I'm traveling and I'll be back in my regular studio. So you will get to see my wonderful Dragons jersey in the background very, very shortly. We're going to talk about tonight's game against the Rangers. We're going to take a quick peek ahead to the game against the Carolina Hurricanes. And hopefully we'll have some fun talking about tonight's game. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube as well as SiriusXM. By the way, you can listen to the game on SiriusXM. Catch every pitch of catch every pitch. That's baseball. Catch every goal of the hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Blue Jackets. Bob McGallagher does a fantastic job with the radio play-by-play, so go and check him out. Thank you for listening once again, and until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.